Behind Van Halen's explosive riffs, wild stage antics, and headline-making feuds, one man held it all together, quietly, powerfully, and with more sacrifice than fans ever knew. But his journey wasn't just about bass lines and backing vocals. It was about loyalty tested, credits lost, and a betrayal discovered not with a phone call, but on the internet. In this untold chapter of rock history, you'll learn how Michael Anthony's low-end rhythm carried the band, even when the spotlight never turned his way. One moment in particular changed everything, and it didn't happen on stage. Brace yourself, because what's coming might completely rewrite your view of Van Halen. Michael Anthony's younger days were shaped by a deep connection to music through his family, particularly his father, Walter Sobolewski, who played the trumpet. Walter's musical background left a strong impression on young Michael, who would often hear his father practicing and performing. This exposure to live, real-world music at home laid the foundation for Michael's growing curiosity about instruments and performance. As a child, Anthony followed in his father's footsteps by learning to play the trumpet. He developed a genuine interest in music during his school years, participating in various music programs. After his family relocated to Southern California in the mid-1960s, he attended Dana Junior High School in Arcadia, where he joined the school's marching band. His participation in the band allowed him to further develop his musical talents in a structured setting, while also introducing him to the experience of group performance and discipline. Even though he was interested in the trumpet all the while, Michael gradually turned to rock music from the age of 13. He shifted his focus to the bass guitar because he wanted to be different from his crowd, most of whom played the guitar or drums. A friend, Mike Hershey, lent him a Fender Mustang guitar, which Anthony modified into a bass by removing 2 strings from it. This was changed to a crucial period in his musical evolution, when he made a full commitment to learning the bass. After noticing how talented and dedicated his son was, Anthony's father bought him a victory copy of a Fender Precision bass along with a Gibson amplifier, enabling serious growth in the tools available for Anthony as a musician. Anthony was shaped early in playing bass by his adulation for such great bassists as Jack Bruce of the Cream, John Paul Jones of Led Zeppelin, and Harvey Brooks of Electric Flag. While he was a naturally left-handed person, he learned how to play with his right hand, a skill that was his sole identification and displayed its flexibility. Such early influences and his consistent practice enabled him to have a strong technical foundation and a musical ear, which became quite essential during the later Van Halen era. Just as his skills were sharpening, fate tuned its strings for a collaboration that would change rock history. During the early 1970s, Michael Anthony immersed himself in the Southern California music scene, performing with several local bands before settling into one that became especially important, Snake. The group was a power trio that blended hard rock with blues influences, and Anthony played bass while also taking on lead vocal duties. Snake mostly played cover songs from popular rock acts, but also experimented with original material, giving Anthony a platform to hone his performance skills in front of live audiences. The band frequently played school dances, local festivals, and clubs, gaining a modest following in the Pasadena and Arcadia areas. It was during this period that Anthony's musical ambitions began to crystallize, and he grew increasingly determined to pursue music as a career. The local music circuit in the San Gabriel Valley proved to be a vital networking hub, and it wasn't long before Snake crossed paths with another up-and-coming band known as Mammoth, which featured brothers Alex and Eddie Van Halen. The two bands sometimes played the same venues, and on one occasion, Snake opened for Mammoth at Pasadena High School. That night, Mammoth's public address system malfunctioned, and Anthony offered to let them use Snake's equipment so the show could continue. This generous and professional gesture left a strong impression on the Van Halen brothers, and it planted the seed for what would later become a life-changing collaboration. Around that time, Mammoth was at a crossroads, as well what with major changes happening internally. Their bassist Mark Stone had just departed from a group, and now there was an empty slot in the band. Eddie and Alex Van Halen remembered Anthony from earlier shows and decided to invite him to a jam session to see if there was musical chemistry. The session, which reportedly took place in a garage, ended with what the brothers had hoped. At this point, Anthony proved that his energetic bass style and powerful backing vocals were exactly what they had sought as a band. His ability to lock into the rhythm and bring vocal harmony thereby added a new dimension to the group's sound. Wasting no time, the Van Halen brothers wasted little time in inducting him to the band as their new bassist after being very impressed with the synergy. Shortly after this, yet another major shift could be said to have taken place in the group by changing its name from Mammoth to Van Halen, the new name having been necessitated by the fact that another band was already operating under the Mammoth moniker. That new name was reportedly suggested by emphasizing the identity of the two brothers while ushering in a new phase in the development of the band. With David Lee Roth on vocals, Eddie on guitar, Alex on drums, and Michael on bass, the classic lineup was officially in place. This marked the beginning of what would become one of the most iconic rock bands of the late 20th century. For Anthony, joining Van Halen was more than just a band change. It was more like a launching pad into an international career that would change his life. With the classic Van Halen lineup solidified in the mid-1970s, Michael Anthony quickly proved himself to be a vital part of the band's musical identity. As the band began performing across the Los Angeles club circuit, particularly at iconic venues like Gazzarri's and the Whiskey A Go Go, Anthony's on-stage energy and vocal harmonies stood out. His high-pitched backing vocals became a trademark of the Van Halen sound, providing a contrast to David Lee Roth's lead vocals and helping to define the band's vocal style in a crowded rock landscape. On top of that, Anthony's tight, no-frills bass playing anchored Eddie Van Halen's explosive guitar work and Alex's thunderous drumming, allowing the band to perform with precision while maintaining its raw edge. When Van Halen released their debut album in 1978 under Warner Brothers Records, Anthony's musical contributions were on full display. His bass lines provided the steady rhythmic foundation on tracks like Runnin' with the Devil and Ain't Talkin' 'Bout Love, while his background vocals elevated anthems like Jamie's Cryin' and Feel Your Love Tonight. The album was a commercial breakthrough, and Anthony's harmonies were widely praised for their blend of power and melody. As the band rapidly rose to fame, touring heavily in support of their albums, Anthony maintained a consistent presence both musically and personally, earning a reputation for being dependable and low maintenance compared to the often volatile dynamics among other members. Initially, Anthony was treated as a full-fledged member financially, receiving his fair share of profits and expenses. This included everything from album sales and tours to merchandise. According to ex-manager Noel Monk, Anthony was equally responsible for 20% of the band's debts and revenues and participated in band business decisions during its early years. But as Van Halen picked up in popularity and internal struggles for power developed, the financial arrangements started to tilt toward the Van Halen brothers and Roth, thus altering Anthony's share of income and ownership rights. But through it all, Anthony's loyalty lay with the music and the progress of the group. Anthony participated in and contributed to the development of Van Halen during the late 1970s into the early 1980s during a series of multi-platinum successes, which continued to have him on tour and record with the band. His playing stayed steady and professional amidst mounting tensions between the others in the group. By Fair Warning and Diver Down, Anthony was a well-established foundation player in the rhythm section, and his contributions, especially vocal support, continued to be instrumental in shaping the band's live presentations and recordings. While Eddie was dazzling audiences with his guitar prowess, and Roth was often the one turning heads, slowly but surely both fans and critics began to recognize Anthony as an extremely important pillar on which rested the musical cohesion of one of rock's most explosive acts.